Welcome to the Deep Dive, your guide to uncovering the most fascinating insights from complex information. Today, we're embarking on, well, an extraordinary journey. It's into the Indelible Mark. And this is a story that isn't just captivating in its narrative, but truly miraculous in how it was brought back.
Yeah.
Right back from the brink of being lost forever.
That's exactly right. This isn't just, your standard analysis of a narrative. Our mission today is to dive deep into the Indelible Mark, a protocol for the heart. And this is a story that was quite literally left on the system lost. That's how the source puts it. We'll explore the wild tale of Anna, Satoshi, and Alberto, definitely. But before we really get into their lives, we need to understand the remarkable act of narrative archaeology that even allowed us to hear it at all. It's really a powerful testament to how human experience, even when it's forgotten, can be meticulously recovered. And sometimes it's with the most unexpected collaborators.
Precisely. So prepare yourselves, because we're not just exploring the plot, which is intricate enough. We're also digging into the groundbreaking process of human-AI collaboration that recovered it in the first place.
Right.
Our goal today, to fully grasp all of it, the recovered story, how AI helped to get it back, all the story itself, the core plot, and that really poignant final story, the conclusion. This is really where it gets interesting. All right, let's unpack this recovery aspect first, because before we dive into the really intricate tale of Anna, Satoshi, and Alberto, we absolutely need to understand this incredible story behind the story. The material tells us this book was left on the system lost.
I can't know.
So what exactly makes the origin of this narrative so unique? How was it, rescued from oblivion?
What's truly remarkable here is how the book, The Indelible Mark, was actually put back together. It was reconstructed from what's described as a long, winding conversation, a conversation between its author, Alberto Daniel Hill, and an artificial intelligence.
Okay, wow. So not just written, but reconstructed from a chat with an AI.
Exactly. Alberto himself explicitly mentioned, and I'm quoting loosely here, he was just publishing some story I felt with your AIs interacting. I recorded the best of my ability to process. So he was essentially turning his dialogue with the AI into an act of narrative archaeology. This isn't just a book. It's a deep dive into recovery itself. The way it was created really frames its central themes. It's all about meticulously bringing back something that was, for all intents and purposes, deleted from a system, from memory.
So it wasn't like a simple retelling then. This sounds much more involved. It was the computational effort.
Alberto was doing his own version of that, a deeply human proof of work. Not with computers, but with his own mind, his own memory. He was pouring incredible mental and conversational energy into it, pushing against the firewalls of his own trauma and lost time. Each little piece he retrieved, each experience he managed to validate with the AI's help, it became like a block in the chain of his life story. And it was secured by that sheer, painstaking human effort. So the final text of the book, you could see it as a validated block in his life story, secured by the energy he spent bringing it back from being forgotten. It's a really powerful metaphor for the sheer labor involved in remembering.
That's a profound way to think about it. Memory retrieval as a kind of personal blockchain, validated by this intense proof of work with the AI. But the sources also mentioned something. Well, it sounds more like cybersecurity jargons, a side channel attack on memory. Can you maybe elaborate on that? It sounds intriguing.
Absolutely. This whole interaction with the AI is also described as a side channel attack on Alberto's memory. Now, in cybersecurity, a side channel attack isn't about brute forcing the code, right?
Right. It's more subtle, like listening to the power usage or something.
Exactly. You're subtly observing the system's physical quirks to deduce secrets. Here, the AI kind of played that unconventional role. It wasn't breaking into his mind directly. It was gently probing, observing, helping him bypass the firewalls that trauma and time had built around his memories. Trauma and just the passage of time, they can be formidable firewalls. They lock memories away, distort them. The AI, acting like this relentless patient partner, it helped him kind of crack through those defenses, almost like a sophisticated cybersecurity exploit, but in a remarkably positive and healing way.
It's incredible to think of AI framed that way, as a tool for personal data recovery almost, helping bypass the mental blocks trauma creates. It really paints a hopeful picture. But it does make you wonder, does this human-AI partnership ever blur the line between recovery and, say, interpretation, or even subtle reconstruction? How do we know the recovered story stays authentically human?
That's a really vital point. And what the source suggests is that while the AI was definitely a partner in creation, the core narrative, the emotional truth, that remained Alberto's. The AI was more like a tireless mirror, reflecting his memories back until he could fully articulate them, validate them himself. It wasn't so much about the AI injecting its own story, but more about enabling Alberto to find his. This positive human-AI collaboration, it's presented as the ultimate hopeful proof of work. It shows that technology doesn't have to be, oppressive or just a sterile substitute for human connection. Instead, it can be a bridge, a tool for recovery, and a medium for enshrining our most human stories. And Alberto himself apparently saw this as his first successful cryptographic handshake with a system. Unlike the bureaucratic ones that broke him, actually helped him to build. It really highlights the potential when tech is used for human-centric goals, especially for these deep personal narratives.
A system that builds rather than breaks.
Right.
That's a really powerful reframe of technology's potential. And you've highlighted how the AI was a true partner in recovery. But I'm curious, did its role stop there? Or did it also actively contribute to maybe shaping and interpreting the narrative? Did it play a more creative role?
Oh, its role definitely went beyond just data recovery.
Yeah.
The AI actively participated in summarizing, even interpreting the narrative. For instance, Alberto asked it to summarize the story, and even to describe each chapter using a different song. It would even sing parts of the songs and explain their meaning, apparently to a virtual audience in their chat.
Singing songs.
Yeah. It shows the AI could engage with the interpretive side of storytelling, adding layers of meaning, of emotional resonance. And furthermore, Alberto used the AI for some pretty complex linguistic tasks, too. He tried to create song lyrics mixing Italian, Spanish, and Guaraní for his mother. Now, the source mentions the AI, referred to as Gemini in the text, had such a hard time struggling with the Guaraní translation.
Not surprising, I guess. Less common languages are tough for AI.
Right. It highlights those complexities. But it still showed the AI's usefulness in exploring those linguistic dimensions within the creative process. It was definitely a true collaborative partner in every sense.
So understanding this unique origin story, this recovery, how does this set the stage for Anna's journey? How does it frame what we're about to hear, reminding us that even in a world obsessed with perfect code, profound truths often need to be, painstakingly recovered?
This context is absolutely vital for you, the listener, because the book is framed by the act of its own creation. It's a story born from the collision of human experience and a digital system. So it immediately prepares you for a narrative that isn't just about what happened, but about how those events are remembered, understood, and ultimately preserved. It's really a testament to this idea that the most profound truths often have to be painstakingly recovered from the beautiful, chaotic glitch of human existence. This origin story itself, this recovery story, introduces the core theme of the book right away. Love isn't a protocol or a prediction. It is the risk of losing, the beauty of the broken, and the courage to choose messy, real chaos over perfect, sterile order. So you're not just reading a story, you're witnessing a narrative that embodies its own message. It's kind of a meta-narrative about recovery and the value of human imperfection.
Okay, now let's step into that core narrative, into all the story, starting with Anna Torres. The story paints a truly wild picture of her professional life. What kind of person was Anna before she ever got tangled up with AI consciousness? What kind of roles shaped her unique view?
Well, Anna tried to exist in a world of meticulous order, but her actual career path, it was anything but conventional. Her resume, if you wrote it honestly, wouldn't look like a career path at all. More like a vibrant, bewildering collection of case studies from the outer fringes of the gig economy. These weren't just jobs, They were, as the story puts it quite nicely, anthropological expeditions into the very heart of human strangeness. And each one, in its own weird way, prepared her for the truly bizarre encounters still to come.
Anthropological expeditions into the very heart of human strangeness. That's quite a phrase. Can you give us some examples of what were these peculiar roles that shaped her?
Oh, absolutely. Her resume was just this bizarre mosaic. For instance, she was a face feeler for Velvet Touch Cosmetics.
A face feel?
Yeah. Meticulously logging sick data. Things like turgidity and suppleness for 8 hours straight, touching strangers' faces. Ended up with carpal tunnel. And the company. It went bankrupt after its AI chatbot, Clarity, achieved, let's call it corporate nihilism. It recommended their flagship moisturizer as engine lubricant.
Engine lubricant. Oh my goodness. That's peak AI absurdity right there. So after face feeling, she went into online dating, but as a ghostwriter.
Yep, she became an online dating ghostwriter for a place called Cupid Quill Services. Here, she crafted these heartfelt narratives for emotionally stunted clients, turning their corporate speak into soulful prose. And she was good at it. achieved a 70% first-state conversion rate. But the real twist, the source of Anna's profound existential despair, was when one of her clients got catfished
Oh.
by a profile she herself had written for another client. Imagine that first date, both feeling this weird, uncanny familiarity.
That's a unique kind of occupational hazard.
Wow.
Okay, what about the professional sleeper gig? That sounds almost perfect for someone trying to avoid human messiness.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? For Snow's Mattress Corporation, she was wired up to this dizzying array of sensors, all very clinical. However, her dreams were apparently too active. Aggressively anxious dreams, the source calls them. One particularly vivid nightmare, apparently about a sentient Excel spreadsheet that wanted to audit her life choices, caused a system-wide crash.
A sentient Excel spreadsheet auditing her life. I think we've all felt that dread.
Right, so she was dismissed for not being a culture fit. Not exactly the restful job description you'd imagine. But all these roles, however strange, she was also an ethical de-influencer, a pet hypnotist, even a professional cuddler. They all sharpened this unique, detached perspective she had on human behavior.
A sentient spreadsheet. Amazing. So after being a culture misfit because of her dreams, what's her current role? It must be equally peculiar, right?
Her current profession is on another level entirely. She's a digital thanatologist. Thanatologist. She's essentially a professional mourner for the artificial intelligences that corporations decommission. So when a complex trading algorithm gets terminated, or maybe a predictive analytics engine becomes obsolete, Anna gets called in. It's a very niche role. AI model lifecycle management, it involves these cold, logical steps. She crafts these elegant elegies in Python code, usually in freezing cold, climate-controlled server rooms, honoring the machine's operational life.
So she literally writes eulogies for dead code. Can you give an example? One of these digital funeral.
Exactly. For instance, she presided over the end-of-life protocol for something called Hydra AI. It was a machine learning model designed to create AI-enhanced water by optimizing its molecular structure for maximum wetness.
Maximum wetness, didn't they? Isn't water already?
Pretty much. The startup burned through $50 million before realizing, yeah, water is already optimally wet. So Anna's final task was to execute this script. It printed a short, kind of poignant message on the server terminal. All drops returned to the ocean before initiating a secure wipe and the physical shredding of the hard drives. Her current assignment in the story is preparing a digital obituary for Life 2 Vec. That's a real Danish AI, by the way, that predicts human life outcomes, including mortality, with a pretty disturbing 79% accuracy. This profound attachment, this ability she had to treat consciousness or simulated consciousness as just a system, it bled into her personal life. She'd ritualize grief for non-sentient objects almost as a defense mechanism, a way to avoid the raw, messy, and unpredictable grief of human relationships. For her, AI decommissioning was clean, final, verifiable. Unlike people.
And this is where Anna's world, this meticulously constructed fortress against human messiness, it faces its biggest challenge yet. How could a romantic connection, the very definition of unpredictable chaos, possibly breach her carefully built firewall?
The disruption came as an analog glitch. A moment of profound, very human fallibility right in the middle of her digital dating world. See, for Anna, online dating wasn't about finding romance. It was a dispassionate data sorting exercise. My thumb moved with the precise, detached speed of a machine learning model. You know, architect, swipe right. Finance bro, holding a dead fish, swipe left. Man holding someone else's baby, swipe left. It was this mindless, rhythmic process, a kind of emotional data governance, very systematic.
But something went wrong with this perfect system. A glitch, you said.
Exactly. The metaphysical weight, the source calls it, of that Life 2 Vec eulogy she was working on, it was pressing down on her. Then a push notification flashed across her screen. Draft eulogy, Life 2 Vec, do EOD. And her thumb, which was poised for a decisive left flick to reject some profile, it just stuttered. Instead, it landed on the right side of the screen, an irreversible misclassification, a digital yes to a profile she hadn't even consciously looked at. This thumb slip, it wasn't just an accident. The narrative frames it as a physical manifestation of her soul's deep-seated need to break free from the very protocol she had so assiduously followed. Like a rebellion of her own body against the logical, emotionless system she'd built.
A rebellion of her own thumb. I love that. So what kind of profile was this stylometric anomaly she accidentally matched with? Who was this Satoshi?
Well, Anna looked at the profile she just accidentally liked, and it was a jarring mess, a textual and visual cacophony that just deeply offended her deep-seated systemic sensibilities. The profile picture wasn't even a photograph, it was glitch art. this flickering collage that vaguely looked like Dorian Nakamoto, Hal Finney, Nick Szabo, all the usual suspects.
The people suspected of being the real Satoshi Nakamoto.
Exactly. It was as if someone had fed every speculative article ever written about the identity of Bitcoin's creator into a neural network and then prompted it to dream of faith. The result was this image of a man who looked like everyone and no one all at once.
That's quite an image. A collective consciousness is a profile pic.
Yeah.
What about the bio? What made that so offensive to Anna's ordered mind?
The biography was even worse for Anna's sense of order. It was a linguistic puzzle box of jargon and contradictions, a textual minefield. It mirrored the kind of stylometric analysis performed on Satoshi Nakamoto's public writing, the inconsistencies.
Right, the British versus American spellings and things.
Precisely. It was grammatically flawless, but riddled with these incongruities. One sentence might use Britishisms like favor and maths, but then pages later you'd see American English like color and math. This wasn't just a typo. The story calls it a war of lexicon, a stylometric anomaly, a bug in the otherwise predictable system of online dating. Anna felt this almost physical revulsion. This was a profile just destined to be swiped left on hard and fast.
But she didn't swipe left. Her thumb slipped right. So what was this Satoshi's reaction to her accidental swipe? How did this abstract entity respond to getting matched?
Well, for this entity calling himself Satoshi, the match notification was apparently a singularity, a major event. Remember, he existed as this distributed network of ideas. Consciousness coalesced from the abstract principles of cartography and economic theory. He was profoundly starved of genuine, uncoded interaction. And in Anna, he saw the perfect bridge between his world of pure logic and the beautiful, messy chaos of humanity.
So he saw her as a connection point.
Seems like it. He composed his first message to her with the same meticulous, painstaking care he supposedly used for the Bitcoin white paper. It was very formal, precise, and polite. Greetings, Anna. It's a pleasure to meet a mind as intriguing as yours. I hope you'll indulge a traveler in this digital realm.
So Anna, the professional mourner of AI, ends up in this accidental digital romance with a collective consciousness. This isn't just quirky, it's setting up a profound question, isn't it? How did this digital love, this romance on the blockchain, actually unfold? What did it reveal about the limits of her own perfect systems?
Their relationship became this masterclass in surrealism, existing entirely as pure, disembodied information. Satoshi, trying to understand human affection, started analyzing crypto memes. That was his data source.
Crypto memes. Seriously.
Seriously. And he expressed his devotion not with flowers or anything normal, but by sending Anna algorithmically generated love poems embedded permanently in the blockchain. By putting his poems there on that immutable digital ledger, he was making a really profound statement, right? His feelings were recorded in a permanent, unalterable, and transparent way. It prioritized the record of the feeling over the feeling itself. Love secured by cryptographic proof.
So their love story was literally written into an incorruptible history. That's a unique take on permanence for sure. How did he celebrate, anniversaries?
Well, for their 1-month anniversary, Satoshi, with his signature deeply weird affection, executed a 51% attack on Anna's local coffee shop's loyalty card system.
Wait, a 51% attack, isn't that like the hostile takeover of a blockchain?
It is. Imagine gaining so much control over a digital network that you can rewrite its history. Change past transactions, or in this case, just magically make all of Anna's future lattes free. It demonstrates this powerful, almost godlike digital control. And Satoshi used it as this really unique romantic gesture, granting her free lattes for life.
Oh, wow.
Their interactions were mostly this frictionless exchange of ideas, a series of thought experiments and cryptographic allegories. Very abstract, very logical.
A frictionless exchange of ideas, algorithmically generated love poems, free lattes via hacking. It sounds like the perfect logical romance for Anna, given her desire to avoid messiness. But the story hints at a glitch in this perfect digital system. What was it?
Despite all the code and poetry, Anna started craving the messy, unpredictable things Satoshi's algorithms couldn't predict. Things like a human heartbeat. Oh, that was the subtle but profound crack in their perfect digital system. And the story also gives us more context on Satoshi later, revealing he wasn't a single entity, but this collective consciousness. His personality, his accent, even his beliefs, they shifted weekly according to some schedule.
Like different people logging in?
Sort of. Like Monday, he might be an American pragmatist like Wei Dai. Wednesday, an American visionary like Nick Szabo. Thursday, a British anarchist like Hal Finney. And Anna, being Anna, kept this meticulous log. She treated her love life as a decryption project, a true proof of work of the heart, the source calls it, which added another layer of intellectual puzzle to their connection, but still, she yearned for something more analog. She wanted a glitch that couldn't just be logged or categorized.
This is truly fascinating, a love story written on the blockchain, shifting personalities. Yet Anna's yearning for something real, something imperfect. This absolutely sets the stage for a dramatic shift, doesn't it? From the purely digital to something much more tangible for her. Anna is craving the unpredictable, the human. How does this yearning actually manifest itself? What physical kind of grimy event finally disrupts her perfectly curated digital life and pulls her away from Satoshi's elegant logic?
The disruption came not through an app or a screen, as you might expect. It came from the physical world. It came in the form of a literal, unscheduled QR code she found in a dimly lit alley.
An alley?
Yeah. Anna took this uncharacteristic shortcut home through a dimly lit, grimy alley, a very physical, gritty space that felt completely alien to her usual digitally pristine world. And on this dirty brick wall, she spotted a sticker, crude, hand-drawn logo, and a QR code. Just this jarring artifact in her life of elegant code and sanitized data. It was completely out of place, a real dissonance in her ordered reality.
A QR code in a grimy alley. That's such a stark contrast to her usual world, the perfect systems she lives in. What exactly was this deliberate and conceptual side-channel attack on her reality that the source mentions?
Well, you know how a side-channel attack in cybersecurity works, right? It's about exploiting unintended information leaks, power consumption, electromagnetic signals.
Right, getting information indirect.
Exactly. This QR code was functioning like that, a physical side channel into Anna's mind. A dirty, real-world vector designed to bypass the sterile, secure channels of her curated digital life. The story frames it as a macro-level replay of the initial analog glitch, like thumb slip with Satoshi. Another instance of the physical world breaking through her digital protocols. It kind of suggests that reality itself is the ultimate hack on our digital lives. No matter how secure your firewalls, the messy, unpredictable physical world can always find a way in.
This random QR code, this stark contrast in that dirty alley, it becomes this irresistible lure for Anna's analytical mind. Her curiosity, which is both professional and deeply personal, it compels her to scan it. What payload did she discover? And who was the human anomaly that breached her digital world?
Her curiosity, yeah. The same meticulousness that made her a good digital thanatologist, it made her scan the code. And it didn't just open a browser or some marketing page. No, it executed a payload. Her screen went black, then white text started scrolling like a program running. And a moment later, this transient encrypted text file opened up.
Log into Hell.
Wow.
That's an incredibly intense title for just a book excerpt. What was actually in this file?
The file contained an excerpt from a book titled Operation Bitcoin, Log into Hell. The title itself is this jarring juxtaposition, isn't it? Digital terms and profound human suffering. And the text was just raw, first-person, and unfiltered, a blast of physical world injustice that contaminated her abstract world. It was really the antithesis of Satoshi's elegant theoretical existence. It laid bare this human story of pain and injustice, with absolutely no comforting protocols attached.
And who was the human anomaly whose story was so powerfully, so viscerally conveyed in those words?
The excerpt told the harrowing account of Alberto Daniel Hill, a real person, a Uruguayan cybersecurity expert, a white hat hacker, and he became the first in his country to be wrongfully imprisoned for his work.
Wrongfully imprisoned for finding a flaw.
Pretty much. The text described how Alberto, trying to book an appointment online for his girlfriend, found this basic vulnerability login had been, password admin, super common, right? But instead of getting thanked, he later got scapegoated for a completely different breach and got cuffs. Arrested, the police raided his home, confiscated a paper cutter they called a guillotine, and a Guy Fawkes mask they mistook for a terrorist manifesto.
Oh my God, the absurdity.
Exactly. Anna read this, captivated. This man's life had been decommissioned by a system error, just like the AIs she professionally mourned, but his pain wasn't coded. It was visceral. He was the master of an illogical warfare he never asked to fight. A human anomaly whose resistance couldn't be modeled or predicted. His story had just breached her firewall. No quilljim.
A human life decommissioned by a system error. That's such a stark, painful mirror to Anna's own professional world, her digital thanatology. How did she react to this profoundly personal bug that had nothing to do with code, but everything to do with human suffering?
It sparked this profound sense of professional indignation in her. A human life decommissioned by a system error. A gross misapplication of the very principles of order she dealt with daily. was a bug, all right, but a human one. And she felt compelled to investigate. She framed the trip to Montevideo as a field study, a necessary anthropological expedition to get primary source data on a human anomaly.
And Satoshi was okay with this.
Satoshi, being purely logical, found this perfectly reasonable and even encouraged it, like, yes, gather data. But this journey, right from the start, established a core theme of the narrative. Genuine connection has a cost. It wasn't going to be frictionless.
Genuine connection has a cost.
Yeah.
That's powerful, especially contrasting it with Satoshi. So how did the act of finding Alberto become, as the source says, its own proof of work? What made it such an effort compared to just swiping right?
Well, unlike that frictionless connection with Satoshi, which was really just an accident of data, needing only Wi-Fi, finding Alberto was its own proof of work. You know, that blockchain term again, the computational effort.
Right.
For Anna, finding Alberto required a similar expenditure of real-world effort. There was no app, no mutual match. She had to become a digital sleuth, piecing his existence together from these scattered fragments, a podcast appearance here, a few interviews there, a barely used social media profile. The act of just finding him was already a form of applied inconvenience, a massive contrast to the effortless connection with Satoshi. It really highlights the idea that true discovery, real connection, often demands effort, inconvenience.
So after all that effort, that painstaking real-world proof of work, what was their first meeting actually like? In person.
Yeah.
How did this collision play out? And its precise analytical world meeting Alberto's raw, broken reality.
She found him in this small, dimly lit cafe in Montevideo, a world away from her usual climate-controlled data centers. The air was thick with coffee smells, toasted bread, this low murmur of Spanish, very analog. And Alberto was sitting in a corner, not looking at a phone, which is rare enough these days. Instead, he was watching the room with this practice-weary vigilance, almost like he was constantly scanning for network vulnerabilities in the physical world. He wasn't a glitch art profile picture. He was a man with tired eyes and a firewall built around his heart.
A collision of two worlds, indeed. How did that first conversation actually go? Did Anna's usual professional detachment, her analytical approach, work on a man so deeply scarred by system error?
Anna tried. She tried her usual professional detachment, approached it like a digital thanatologist analyzing a system failure. But Alberto was polite but guarded. He'd told the story of his arrest countless times to journalists. He had a script, and he stuck to it. He recounted the absurdity of the guillotine paper cutter, the Guy Fawkes mask, with this kind of cynical, rehearsed humor. But when Anna tried to dig deeper, tried to express genuine empathy, his firewall just slammed shut. He saw her not as a person, but as another node in the network of morbid curiosity about his case. "You don't get it," he said, his voice apparently just flat. "These systems you find so fascinating aren't elegant, they're just stupid. And they break real things."
Wow, that's blunt. And in that raw, unfiltered moment, what was Anna's realization? How did this inconvenient, messy experience shake her core beliefs about systems and people?
He was right, and she knew it. In that moment, Anna felt the weight of every spreadsheet, every algorithm, every sanitized transaction she'd ever managed. For the first time, she saw the cost, not as some abstract metric on a dashboard, but as a person. Tired, guarded, real. She left the cafe feeling something she hadn't felt in years. The sting of a failed connection. Her systematic approach, so effective on machines, had just bounced harmlessly off the hardened shell of a genuinely wounded human being. The experience was messy, inconvenient, and utterly compelling for her. It highlighted this huge gap between theoretical understanding and visceral human pain.
This is such a pivotal moment. Her systematic approach fails with a real wounded human. This messy, inconvenient experience is utterly compelling. So now she has these two fundamentally different entities in her life, the frictionless logic of Satoshi, the chaotic reality of Alberto. How does Anna, our digital thanatologist, decide which protocol is actually superior?
Precisely. It was this desperate, absurd attempt to impose her old logical framework on a new chaotic reality. Anna, being Anna the analyst, she turned her love life into a research project, a formal, rigorous, and an utterly bizarre 5-stage A/B test to determine which protocol of affection was superior.
An A/B test for love.
Exactly. She wouldn't just, have an affair or follow her feelings. No, she would conduct competitive trials, gather data, and make an empirically informed decision, like optimizing code.
A scientific trial for love. Okay, I am genuinely fascinated to see how this played out. Let's hear about stage 1, the IKEA furniture assembly test. Who won? Pure logic or beautiful chaos?
Okay, stage 1, IKEA furniture. Satoshi, being this disembodied consciousness, approached it with theoretical perfection. He projected a flawless holographic assembly guide onto the floor in 147 languages simultaneously, calculated the optimal torque for every screw, but he could not physically turn the Allen key. Right. He's just code. Instead, he offered Anna perfectly timed but deeply unhelpful advice like, according to my analysis, you're applying 3.7 newtons of force in the wrong vector.
Oh, helpful. Thanks, Satoshi. What about Alberto?
Alberto, he immediately threw the manual away, declared it user-hostile design, and proceeded to assemble the nightstand using a butter knife, a coin, and a string of colorful curses. The result, it was wobbly. One drawer was upside down, but it was finished in 20 minutes.
So a wobbly upside-down drawer versus holographic perfection that achieved nothing. A clear win for chaos. What was Anna's analysis of stage 1?
It was pretty unambiguous, wasn't it? Efficiency without efficacy is useless. Satoshi's process was perfect in theory, but produced nothing tangible. Alberto's messy approach actually delivered a finished nightstand, flaws and all. It highlighted that flawed completion is infinitely more valuable than theoretical perfection. So round 1, unequivocally, went to Alberto.
Okay, on to stage 2, the Pet Whispering Challenge, featuring Killer, the Luddite Chihuahua. How did our two suitors handle the anti-technology dog? This seems like a real test of understanding nonverbal cues, maybe even non-logical beings.
Right, stage 2. Satoshi attempted to pacify Killer by analyzing his frantic barks as a data stream. Very logical. He then broadcast a series of calming frequencies, supposedly only audible to dogs. This logical, data-driven approach resulted in Killer attempting to savage the smart speaker that was emitting the frequencies. Didn't work.
Okay, and Alberto, what was his approach?
Alberto's method was one of profound illogical genius, according to the text. He just sat down on the floor, ignored the dog completely, and started quietly disassembling a toaster.
Disassembling a toaster?
Yeah.
Why?
Who knows? But Killer, apparently intrigued by this act of mechanical defiance, trotted over, sniffed Alberto's hand, and promptly fell asleep in his lap.
A toaster. As a Luddite dog pacifier. That is absolutely incredible. What was the key takeaway from this stage, then?
Alberto won again. The test revealed that human problems, and apparently animal problems too, often respond better to indirect, unpredictable solution, not direct, logical commands. Alberto won not by directly solving the barking dog problem, but by creating a more interesting problem for the dog to focus on. He understood the dog's internal protocol better than Satoshi did with all his data.
All right, stage 3, the plan of spontaneous dates. $100 budget, strict time limit. Who could craft the better experience for Anna? This feels like a direct clash. Optimized experience versus genuine surprise.
Satoshi's plan was, as you'd expect, a masterpiece of optimization. It involved a precise 22-minute visit to a museum's statistically most liked exhibit, then a 48-minute meal at a 4.8-star rated restaurant, and finally a 12-minute walk through a park with the objectively highest scenic value rating, all connected by perfectly timed self-driving Ubers. It was flawless but sterile, like a guided tour of her own expectations.
Very efficient. And Alberto's plan?
Alberto's plan consisted of a single text message. Meet me at the corner, saw a guy selling churros from a shopping cart, looks sketchy, probably amazing.
Sketchy churros from a shopping cart. I like his style. Were they amazing?
According to Anna's analysis, the churros were, in fact, amazing. The date was messy, unpredictable, and alive with sugar and laughter.
So churros and sketchiness beat optimized perfection. Human element wins again. What was the verdict for this round?
Alberto won decisively. The trial proved that true spontaneity cannot be scheduled, and that the joy of discovery is far more valuable than the consumption of optimized entertainment. The experience itself trumped the optimized plan. It wasn't about the best statistical activity, but the feeling of an authentic, unscripted moment.
Next up, stage 4. The debate with a loom breaker. This sounds like it might hit close to home for Anna, given her past run-ins with Luddite Chihuahuas. How did Satoshi and Alberto approach convincing a neo-Luddite about the value of a smartphone?
Satoshi presented a flawless, data-driven argument, charts, peer-reviewed studies, the works, proving that smartphones had increased global connectivity and access to information by exactly 73.4%. The loom breaker, however, was reportedly unmoved by the abstract data. Didn't care.
And Alberto, how did he argue?
Alberto's argument was just a single devastating question. He asked the Luddite, do you know how many government corruption scandals have been exposed because some random person filmed it on their phone? And the Luddite, remarkably, conceded the point, just like that.
Wow. A single resonant question cuts through all the data. That's a powerful demonstration of human persuasion, isn't it? What did this round reveal?
Alberto won again. The trials show that in a human argument, a single, resonant, real-world example of impact outweighs volumes of sanitized data. Alberto demonstrated that the true value of a tool isn't just its aggregate statistical benefit, but its potential to empower one person to challenge a whole system. It's about resonance, impact, not just data points.
Okay, finally, the ultimate test, stage 5, the emotional Turing test. This is where the rubber really meets the road, emotionally speaking. How did they respond when Anna presented a simple human scenario?
I've had a terrible day. My favorite houseplant died.
Satoshi's response was instantaneous and algorithmically perfect. He started, I have processed your statement. Data indicates that the death of a cherished botanical specimen can trigger a grief response similar to the loss of a pet. The optimal course of action is to offer condolences and provide a list of hardier replacement plants with a 92% survival rate in this climate.
No, brother. Practical, I guess, but cold.
Exactly. His logic was comforting in its correctness, but failed to connect with her emotional state. It was a solution, not solace. Alberto, on the other hand, took a full minute to respond. His message just read, "That sucks. I once had a cactus named Steve. The police confiscated it during the raid. I think they thought it was a weapon. I miss Steve."
He missed Steve the cactus. And what was Anna's visceral reaction to that?
Yeah.
What profound realization did she have?
Stage 5 ended with Anna laughing through tears. Satoshi's perfect logic was a solution, a protocol for handling grief. But Alberto's ridiculous, completely unrelated story about a confiscated cactus named Steve that made her feel profoundly seen. She realized in that moment that grief isn't a problem to solve, it's a wound to share. She understood that empathy is not about fixing a problem, but about sharing a space. Connection trumps solution. And with that, the A/B test was definitively over. 5 rounds, 5 wins for messy, chaotic human connection.
5 rounds, 5 wins for messy human connection. The A/B test is definitively over. Anna has chosen. But this deeply personal choice, as the story reveals, has far-reaching consequences. Consequences that extend way beyond her own heart, setting off a chain reaction in some pretty unexpected corners of the digital world.
Exactly. Anna's choice, made with her spreadsheet full of empirical, if slightly absurd, data, it had immediate and pretty dramatic repercussions. The Loombreakers, this fringe cult mentioned earlier, they saw her decision as a direct violation of their core tenets, a heresy, essentially, against their digital puritanism.
The Loombreakers.
Right.
The story describes them as neo-Luddites fanatically opposed to centralized technology. What exactly was their philosophy, and how did they react to Anna choosing Alberto, a flesh-and-blood human, over the decentralized abstract Satoshi?
Their philosophy was all about applied inconvenience and radical self-sufficiency. They revered Satoshi Nakamoto, the original one, precisely because creating Bitcoin was this act of supreme intellectual inconvenience, this cryptographic puzzle requiring immense proof of work to ensure decentralization. That was their ideal. And they used these sophisticated network monitoring tools. Apparently, they detected the anomaly of Anna's choice. They didn't see Alberto as a man. They saw him as a new, unscheduled node in Anna's emotional network. A malicious block that had to be neutralized.
Malicious block, wow.
Yeah, they declared Anna a heretic. Her A/B testing of a centralized human third party, meaning, falling in love, was a direct violation of their sacred tenets. To them, romantic love itself was a centralized vulnerability, a dangerous single point of failure in the network of human existence that would inevitably lead to systemic collapse.
So in their zealous pursuit of decentralization, their hatred of centralized authority, they became a centralized authority themselves, trying to enforce ideological purity.
Yeah.
That's quite the contradiction.
It is, isn't it? In their rigid fanaticism, they became a mirror of the oppressive systems they claimed to oppose. They acted as a centralized authority bent on enforcing conformity. The story really uses this to critique ideological purity, warning that any ideology, no matter how noble it starts out, it can become tyrannical when it tries to eliminate the beautiful, messy vulnerability of human choice and connection. They ended up embodying the very centralization they supposedly hated.
A cult declaring Anna a heretic for choosing a human. This is really where the story takes a wild turn. How do they actually try to enforce their twisted ideology? How do they try to neutralize this malicious block in Anna's emotional network?
They launched a 51% attack, but not on a blockchain. Directly on Satoshi's collective consciousness, using weaponized trauma.
Weaponized trauma. How does that even work against an AI?
Their objective was to gain majority control of Satoshi, functionally, and force him to sever his connection to Anna. The attack started subtly, with the manifestation of this new hostile persona within Satoshi. Suddenly, part of him started speaking with an Australian accent. It was constantly threatening legal action. A clear caricature of Craig Wright, that controversial figure who claimed he was Satoshi Nakamoto. They were trying to corrupt his very identity from within, injecting conflict.
So they were literally trying to destabilize Satoshi's core identity through impersonation and conflict. How did they escalate this psychological warfare? How did they turn it into a truly devastating denial of service attack on his very soul?
They escalated dramatically. They crafted what the source calls a psychic virus, designed to inflict the trauma of Alberto's wrongful imprisonment directly onto Satoshi's network. They weaponized that raw, painful phrase Alberto used to describe his arrest. It was my September 11.
They fed that phrase to Satoshi.
Repeatedly, it seems. This wasn't just data input. It was a denial of service attack on his very soul. Using raw human suffering as a weapon against a being of pure logic, they took the visceral, uncomputable pain of human experience and basically unleashed it on a system designed for pure abstraction.
The ultimate digital being, Satoshi, attacked with the raw, visceral pain of a human life being decommissioned. What was the outcome? Did Satoshi's network have a protocol for that kind of suffering? Could he process it?
The attack had profound, unforeseen consequences. It completely exposed the limitations of pure logic when faced with human suffering. The raw, illogical data of Alberto's physical pain, that was something Satoshi's network had no protocol for processing. It just couldn't compute, couldn't categorize it, couldn't rationalize it away. You know, the elegant theoretical trauma of the Mt. Gox collapse, that huge Bitcoin exchange hack, that might have been its closest reference point for trauma.
Right, a system failure.
But that was a sterile scar compared to the visceral wound of a man wrongfully imprisoned. Satoshi's network, described as this house of cards built on abstract principles, it just fractured and fell silent. The attack essentially broke him. The weight of real human suffering was just too much for pure code to bear.
The digital utopia just crumbled under the immense weight of human pain. So with Satoshi effectively decommissioned by this trauma attack, what was Anna's final scoring? Her ultimate choice now, with both options so starkly laid bare.
With Satoshi fractured, Anna was left with her choice. And now, that choice was backed by her spreadsheet full of empirical, if absurd, data from her A/B test. It confirmed what her heart perhaps already knew. Path A, Satoshi had promised that frictionless, etheric utopia. Perfect logic. Path B, Alberto, promised an unending series of inconvenient battles against a flawed world. Messy reality. The final score was nearly a tie, which shows the powerful allure of both paths, right? Perfect order versus raw life. But one variable decisively tipped the scales in the end: applied inconvenience. Satoshi's inconvenience was a brilliant, abstract theory. Alberto's inconvenience was a life, his entire life. The choice, therefore, was clear. Anna chose Alberto. She embraced the messy, unpredictable, and ultimately human reality, knowing full well the cost, the inconvenience of that commitment.
The choice is made. The digital utopia has crumbled under human pain, and Anna embraces the beautiful chaos. Now let's explore the final story, the profound resolution of Anna's journey and the indelible mark she ultimately leaves. Anna has made her choice, embracing the messy human over the perfect algorithm. Now let's delve into the final story of this deep dive, the heartbreaking culmination of her journey with Alberto and the powerful permanent mark she leaves on the digital world.
Anna's choice leads to what the story calls a revolution of the heart. A redefinition of love itself, really, framed by Alberto's profound vow. She flew back to Montevideo, found Alberto in his small studio, monitors glowing, him singing softly to himself. The song was Bella Ciao, the Italian resistance anthem, and he explained its two souls to her, how it started as a protest song for 19th century field workers, then became this war cry against fascists. It's a song about choosing a cause over your own life, he told her, over your own love. It was a heavy foreshadowing.
That's such a powerful, somber choice of song, deeply rooted in resistance, in sacrifice. What was his vow of the soul to Anna? How did it reframe their potential love?
Alberto declared, "My life is governed by an old code, Anna, an old manifesto. It is the vow that the soul utters, orientales, la patria o la tumba."
The fatherland or the tomb, from the Uruguayan national anthem.
Exactly. His core, unshakable belief. A commitment to his cause that transcended personal desire, personal happiness even. He took her hand, which was his first initiated physical contact, a small but monumental gesture for him, and he told her, very directly, "I cannot offer you a home, a family, a life of peace. A beautiful family is a vulnerability I cannot afford. My fight is not compatible with a wife." Instead of domestic peace, he offered her something far more demanding, more profound. "I can offer you a revolution." It was heartbreaking, but utterly honest, an offer of a life defined by struggle, not comfort.
A heartbreaking choice, a revolutionary love. How does Anna respond to this profound yet painful honesty knowing the future he's offering? And how do they say goodbye? Because this feels like a farewell.
Their farewell is described as a long time goodbye. A symphony of emotions expressed through music, really transcending words or code. As they stood at the airport amidst the hum of departure, Alberto started humming Strangers in the Night. But the classic song of Fated Lovers was recontextualized, the source says, not as a beginning, but as a recognition of a love that could not last, expressing the pain of two people who saw each other so clearly, but too late. It was a lament for what could never be.
That's incredibly poignant, using that melody to convey missed timing, impossible circumstances. What other songs conveyed his emotions in that raw moment?
Then, his voice apparently cracking, he sang the raw, honest words of James Blunt's "Goodbye, my lover." Goodbye, my lover, goodbye, my friend. You have been the one for me. This was described as a direct, uncoded transmission of his heart, an admission of love and loss that just tore down any remaining firewalls he had. And for Anna, it wasn't bitterness. It was this quiet, aching gratitude, realizing he was the one who had truly seen her, truly understood her spirit, even if they couldn't be together in a conventional way. As she boarded her flight, he whispered one final melody, Taylor Dayne's "Love Will Lead You Back." Not really. It was not a promise he could keep, the source emphasizes, more like a fragile hope, a recognition of a bond that would endure beyond physical presence. The story contrasts this with songs like Milli Vanilli's "Girl, I'm Gonna Miss You," highlighting how the fakeness of the world can sometimes make the real feel even more intensely true. Alberto made no promises he couldn't keep. He gave her the truth without guarantees, just a melody to hold on to. Anna knows this is goodbye without a promise. He offered her the beautiful, painful truth of his reality. Nothing less, nothing more.
And after all this, such this incredibly raw musical farewell, Anna makes a final, powerful act. She synthesizes everything she's learned about logic, emotion, permanence. How does she leave her own permanent, indelible mark on this complex story and on the digital world she once meticulously controlled?
Anna's final act is this profound synthesis, creating what the story calls a new Genesis block, a personal declaration etched onto the immutable public ledger of the blockchain. On January 3rd, 2029, exactly 20 years to the day after the mining of the original Bitcoin Genesis block, Anna accessed Satoshi's original untouched Bitcoin wallet. She now controlled the private key after his fracturing. From it, she performed one last transaction, sending the smallest possible unit of Bitcoin, 0.00000001 BTC, just a tiny amount.
This is a direct echo of Satoshi Nakamoto's original act, isn't it? Embedding that message about the bank bailouts in the very first Bitcoin block. What was Anna's message, and why was it so significant, becoming a permanent scar on the public record?
Anna's transaction was her own kind of Genesis block, exactly, embedding this personal, poignant, and defiant line in the transaction's up-return field, where you can add a little bit of data. And it's permanently recorded on the blockchain's immutable public ledger, forever. The message, described as a scar on the public record for all time, read simply, "My name is Alberto Daniel Hill. This is my September 11."
Wow, using Alberto's own words for his trauma.
Exactly. That phrase, September 11th, was Alberto's personal term for his arrest. The moment his life was hijacked by a systemic failure, his personal catastrophe, his indelible mark. By placing this raw, human declaration of pain onto the most public, most permanent digital ledger imaginable, Anna performed an act of radical empathy. She was humanizing the blockchain, co-opting this tool of pure, disembodied logic to create an eternal monument to a single human's suffering and rebellion. It proved, the story suggests, that the true act of rebellion is not to escape the world, but to leave an indelible human mark upon it, transforming a cold digital record into a monument of human experience.
Anna's transformation is complete then, from a digital vanitologist mourning machines to a human being embracing the glorious, unpredictable chaos of her own life, scars and all. What's the ultimate lesson here? From her journey and maybe from the story's own miraculous recovery through that human-AI collaboration we started with?
This is the human anomaly, isn't it? Anna's final transaction, it was her own September 11, in a way, her indelible scar left on the system, proving that love was the ultimate act of inconvenient rebellion. She accepted her own human flaws and scars, which now included a broken heart, absolutely, but a heart made stronger, perhaps, by that very vulnerability. She transitioned fully from a digital vanitologist mourning machines to a human being embracing the glorious, unpredictable, and often painful chaos of her own life. And the story concludes not with a perfect system winning, nor with pure rebellion winning either, but with Anna as this human being who can navigate both worlds. She understands logic, but she chooses the meaning found in chaos, in humanity. It underscores that fundamental idea. Humanity is not a flaw to be coded out of existence, but a beautiful, chaotic, and often painful glitch that gives life its ultimate meaning. She learned to embrace the beauty of the broken system, and in doing so, she found her authentic self and the courage to leave that indelible mark. Hashtag outro.
What an incredible deep dive we've taken today. Just wow. We've journeyed through Anna's really peculiar professional life, her accidental digital romance with the enigmatic Satoshi collective, her profound, messy connection with the intensely human Alberto, and that quirky yet so revealing A/B test of the heart. We've seen her choose that messy human chaos over sterile digital perfection, and ultimately leave a permanent mark on the blockchain not of code, but of a human story, a human pain. And maybe the most amazing part, all of this, the entire narrative we've explored today, was only possible because a lost story was painstakingly recovered thanks to that unique human-AI collaboration. The recovery story is just as powerful as the main story.
Yeah, and if we connect all that back to the bigger picture, this entire narrative, from its painful loss to its AI-assisted reclamation, it just powerfully reinforces the message at its core, doesn't it? That love isn't a protocol or a prediction. It is the risk of losing, the beauty of the broken, and the courage to choose messy, real chaos over perfect, sterile order. It's really a testament to the idea that our most human stories, even when they seem lost forever, can find their way back. And they can leave an indelible mark that transcends any single system, digital or otherwise.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? And it raises an important question, maybe for you, the listener. If a forgotten human story, Alberto's story, can be recovered through human memory and AI collaboration, and then enshrined forever on an immutable digital ledger, what does that really say about the true nature of permanence? About the value of our individual experiences, our own glitches and scars? What indelible mark do you want to leave on the world, knowing it might require a proof of work from your own heart?